Story 1. Weirdly enough, we are living in my front room, but we are just friends now. Story 2. Back with me. 20 years without contact. We are both divorced and we met again. Story 3. Got her Doctor of Philosophy degree and is still single. I am not a stalker, but a friend of ours told me. Wish her the best. Story 4. He is married to a wonderful woman, has a child, continues doing what he loves, music, and is absolutely excelling. We dated for 5 years when I was 17 and he was 18. We had a band together. We lived in another country for 2 years. It ended when I was 22. Story 5. Still in his hometown, checking my stories when he had a chance. Story 6. Oh, the police asked me that too many times, but I will never tell. Story 7. She did not want a relationship back then in her 20s and was not ready for something serious. She reached out to me when she had no job and was now ready for something serious in her 30s. Needless to say, I never answered her when a friend gave her my number. Story 8. 2 children and owns a ranch in Texas with her husband. I visit occasionally and stay in their extra mother-in-law quarters. Story 9. She passed away 2 years after we married. I was in love with her since I was 9.5 years old. Story 10. I have no clue. I do not even know her last name, and I am almost positive I would not recognize her if I saw her, which is nearly impossible since I moved to a small town across the country. It was fun back then, though. Story 11. Hopefully living his best life. Last I knew, he was married with at least 1 child. He was a damaged soul, and I couldn't deal with that baggage at age 17. I hope he is doing well. He was lovely but needed a lot of therapy back then. I just wanted to party and be young. Story 12. Not a clue. I was a pretty wild teenager, so keeping in touch with those guys was not a priority for me when I changed my lifestyle. Story 13. Last I heard, she was having her 6th child with her 5th baby daddy. That was almost a decade ago, so it is likely more. I really dodged a bullet with that one. Story 14. Married with children. He was a careless, receptive partner when I was 19 and he was 22. Story 15. Last I heard, he was living with his father after a divorce from a difficult marriage. He had 3 children, 2 of whom were alive. His sister and I were good friends and caught up when I was back home for a while. Hearing about his life was sad because he was a great person. I just wanted more out of life, such as education, travel, and living abroad. I knew he wanted to stay in his hometown and have children, the exact opposite of me. He deserved better than what and who he settled for. I'll be honest, he was the standard by which all future boyfriends were measured. If they didn't treat me as well as he did, they became single quickly. My current husband shares my love of travel and adventure, along with a level of caring, respect, and love equal to that first person. Story 16. Probably prison, or chained to a tree, or throwing soup over artwork, or gluing themselves to the M25. Story 17. She has 2 children with 2 fathers and, I believe, is married to a different man. Story 18. In jail with his father and older brother for assaulting his business rival and damaging property. Story 19. Still in our hometown. I heard she has 4 children and is living with one of the fathers. She got divorced some time ago. I have not seen her in over 15 years. Stay away from hard drugs and from people who use hard drugs. Story 20. Across the room from me, I married her. 38 years in December. Story 21. I came across his LinkedIn profile recently. He is a lawyer. Story 22. 20 minutes from my house. He lives his life as a father-in-law. Story 23. The last I heard, he was divorced and living in the Tampa area. This was about 35 years ago, so I have no idea if he is still there or elsewhere. Story 24. We are still friends and live in the same place. I bought his mother's house. Story 25. I have no idea. Obviously, I hope she is living a happy life somewhere, but knowing what she got into after high school, it is more likely she is either deceased or incarcerated. Story 26. I have never heard of her in nearly 20 years. However, I find it acceptable. Story 27. Still lives in the same town with a long-term partner, labor job, 2 children, and many more tattoos. Story 28. No clue. She is 11 years older than I am, and I forgot her name a long time ago. I am not even sure if she is still alive at this point, as it has been way too long. Story 29. Not sure she is alive. The last time I saw her on Facebook, she was using drugs and going in and out of jail. She did not look like she was doing well. Story 30. Either at home playing Hearts of Iron 4 or at work, suffering. Either way, I will hopefully see him within the week. Story 31. Married with a child, we were friendly until after he got married. Then suddenly he blocked me on social media. Story 32. She got married and had a few children. It seemed like she was doing okay. I have not talked to her in 10 years. Story 33. Married 3 times. She has lived in Ohio and Florida. She left a considerable trail of destruction behind her, or so my friend, who frequently uses social media, tells me. Story 34. I assume that she still lives in the metropolitan area where we grew up. Story 35. I have not talked with her in over 10 years, but I have done some light sleuthing a few times over the years. I think she still lives in my hometown, is either married or has a long-term partner, and has at least 1 child. Story 36. She is a good person. She also served in the military and eventually got married. From what I have seen, I do not think she receives what she should from her wife, but she is loyal anyway. I wish her the best. Story 37. No idea. She is Argentinian, and we only met for a few days in a youth hostel in southern Netherlands. Story 38. I do not know. I have tried to look her up, but there are no results. It has been 11 years this month. Story 39. He left college and works as a waiter in a hotel. He works on his music career. As far as I know, he is finally in a happy relationship. He had a really bad childhood, as I did, but he was a really good boyfriend, if not the best I had. I wish him nothing but the best. Story 40. She is somewhere. I have not spoken to her in a while, but I hope that she is doing well for herself. Story 41. She is on her 3rd marriage. She is 50 years old and, by looking at her recent Facebook and Instagram pictures, still has a fit body. However, she is sad and has some mental health issues that need addressing. She has 2 children from her first 2 husbands. Story 42. Living in Turkey. Who knew that was exactly the correct distance from me here in the United States? Feels like a wonderful Christmas present. Story 43. Married on the other side of the state, starting a family of their own. Story 44. I think he is married now, but I am not sure. He lives in another country, so there is no chance of me running into him again. Story 45. Somewhere in Northern California, living as a single mother. She joined a cult and ran away from it with one of the leaders after he impregnated her. He ended up being abusive and left her. She was very terrible to me, but I hope she is okay now. I cannot imagine everything she has been through. It was a difficult situation. Story 46. Sitting 50 feet from me, playing with our son on the beach. Story 47. Divorced with many children her former partner left her with. She left me for him. I wish her the best. She was a good girl and I was a bad boy. Story 48. He married the woman he cheated on me with. Story 49. I think in Ohio. Married to the man who stopped being friends with her when we started dating. No hate. Good for him. He got what he wanted in the end. I am pretty sure they are happy, and that makes me happy. Story 50. Married to the man she left me for and living her best life in Florida. I wish her all the best. Story 51. According to her Facebook account, she is in Oklahoma. She will not accept a friend request. She might still be upset about the mattress on a dirt floor in the garage. Story 52. I was 13 and raped by a 16-year-old. Too ashamed 49 years ago to tell anyone. He is dead. Thank God. Story 53. I haven't heard from her in quite some time, but last I heard through mutual friends. She is a glamour model or something like that. boudoir shoots and artistic nude photography, things like that. Honestly, I am happy for her because she had serious self-esteem issues when we were together. Story 54. In God's hands, I imagine a wonderful, sweet, and extremely loving girl who unfortunately passed away after being hit by a drunk driver. Story 55. 50 years later, she is in Brooklyn, and I am in England with my wife of 37 years. Story 56. A few miles down the road from me, we are still good friends. Story 57. Utah. In the big cult. I never could get into their material, so we went our separate ways. Story 58. Last I heard, they got married, had a child, and ended up on a farm. They got everything they wanted, so that is good. Story 59. He will be out of jail in 2027. He has been there for a while. Story 60. He is probably still living at his grandparents' cabin after his wife left him for cheating. Story 61. Working on his Doctor of Philosophy degree on another continent. He still texts me whenever he is back in Europe, kind of the one that got away because of timing for both of us. Story 62. As I understand, she married a man who abuses her, which makes me sad. One of my biggest regrets is how I took her for granted when we were together. I made it a point to never do that again to someone. I keep in mind that nobody is obligated to love me, so I should be grateful for those who do. It saddens me that the person who inspired that mindset in me ended up with someone who does not share it. Story 63. Dating my close friend. We all work together, and honestly, they are much better together than she and I were. Story 64. He came out shortly after we broke up and is now living a happy life with his husband. Story 65. Growing old in a small town with his third wife, children, and grandchildren. He is a very nice person, as was his family, so I am sure it is all pretty smooth now. Story 66. Became a strong right-wing conservative. I lost track of him after that. Story 67. I do not know and rarely think about it. It was a very long time ago. Story 68. I have no idea at all. Not a single thought. And I do not really care to know. Story 69. He works in a bar in the north of Italy. I was there on holidays when I was 18. He lived in the village there. I searched for him online and found out he is a barkeeper in the same village. Actually, I would be interested in seeing him again if we ever met. The first times were not great. It was his first time as well. We would probably have better experiences now, 30 years later. Story 70. Married and living in Ohio with several children. I would say I dodged a bullet. Story 71. Last I knew, still stuck in the same small town doing the same things. Story 72. She is working in mail services and had a child with someone from our high school. I was fortunate to get out of that. Story 73. In the chair next to me, enjoying a visit from our daughter, son-in-law, and our newest grandchild. Story 74. He is a real estate agent working with his wife. Occasionally, I receive group text messages like, "Selling your home? Let us help you." I cannot imagine a worse scenario, such as showing him my credit and tax return information. No way. Story 75. It turned out he was incapable of growing with me. As far as I know, he is still living in his parents' house and is probably still an aging adolescent. I am grateful every day that I did not marry him. Story 76. Have no idea, one night stand at a party in the back room. Story 77. Do not know and do not care. Hope every side of her pillow is warm and she steps on 1 million Batman cowl Lego pieces. Story 78. No clue. All I know is he is married now. I have zero care or feelings for him. I hope he is doing well, as I would for any stranger. Story 79. She was killed in July 2023 in a mugging that turned into a stabbing. I only found out because the police notified me since my satellite phone number was still listed as a next of kin contact in her phone, despite our breakup about 4 years ago. The man before her, although I do not consider him my first partner, is legally missing but presumed deceased. Story 80. Married to an ex-friend of mine. After we were married, that's okay. He can have her. Story 81. He is sleeping on the couch because he does not want to be awakened by our child who sleeps in the same room. Story 82. It was not consensual, but he is working as a security guard at the mall. He has a wife and 5 children. Story 83. Who knows? Probably still out there in the wild, cheating on someone else. I couldn't care less, honestly. Story 84. Living their life and hopefully feeling less angry and resentful towards the world. I hope they are well though. Story 85. Still living in the same town where we met. She is a single mother now. Story 86. He moved after I moved out. He used to be in Houston, Texas. Now he is somewhere in La Marque. We have not spoken in a while. Story 87. At work, and she needs to hurry up and get home because we have to head to Home Depot today. Story 88. Out of prison, still in our hometown. I have a girlfriend and a child. He is happy, I am happy, we are good. Story 89. I don't know. The last thing I knew was that he had to take a semester off from university because his operation, which took place shortly after he took my virginity and told me 2 days later he wasn't interested in me anymore, did not go well at all. I hope he is doing better now. Story 90. Hooked up with her when we were 21. We went camping together, blacked out, then became conscious while we were having sex. We kept in touch, and years later we got back together. Now we are married. Story 91. Mine lives about 20 minutes away. She has 3 or 4 children and 2 baby fathers. I know she has had a couple of miscarriages. I still see her mother every so often. Story 92. Somewhere in New Mexico with a couple of children who are not mine. I have not talked to her in about 5 years, so there is no telling where she is now. Story 93. I have no idea, and she most likely has no idea who I am yet. Story 94. Probably happily married to his husband in Camden. Enjoying Slimelight every Saturday. Story 95. He is married to my brother, and I am in a relationship with his sister. We both came out shortly after our first experience together. Story 96. Absolutely no idea. I was 15, very drunk, and never saw them again. That was 14 years ago. Story 97. He died a couple of years ago. We were not together anymore, but we're still friends. I miss him. Story 98. First times are like old maps, sometimes forgotten, sometimes revisited. People move on, lives diverge, but the memory always has a surprise. Story 99. Regarding time and her usual schedule, she is probably spending time with her current boyfriend. Story 100. Dating a wonderful woman with a degree in psychology. Love you, Heather. Ben, you are okay, I guess. Story 101. It's a difficult situation. I'm not going to lie. I'm so happy that was just a high school experience. Story 102. I looked her up on Google a few years ago. Sadly, the first link was her obituary. No cause of death was listed, but she was in her early 40s. I carry the link to her obituary on my cell phone. Story 103. Has several children with 3 different men. I am not one of them. Story 104. No idea at the moment, but my wife and I saw her at the same hospital giving birth on the same day, so that was a funny coincidence. Story 105. She died in a car accident about 6 years ago, while under the influence of alcohol and drugs, leaving her children at home. Story 106. Married another man. We were just too young at the time. He became disabled not long after and died before turning 45. I would love to know how things worked out and really hope that she is happy and okay. Story 107. Lives in South Carolina with her husband and 2 children. I heard that she became very religious. Dodged a bullet there. Story 108. Died of an overdose about 10 years ago. She fell into the wrong crowd right after high school and made many bad choices thereafter until her last choice ended the chain. Story 109. He is living in Wyoming and engaged to another woman. I enjoyed the intimacy and connection, but I am a lesbian. Yes, I was experimenting at the time. Story 110. Sitting in an urn on a shelf in my daughter's place the last time I knew. Story 111. Probably mountaineering in some remote mountain area. Story 112. She is probably still in Texas with what would now be a 28-year-old son. We dated for a month before she told me she was 3 months pregnant. We were both in the army. She used the pregnancy to get discharged and expected me to do the same. She left and I stayed in. Story 113. Looks like he is married now. I have not thought of him in over a decade. I just looked him up now. Story 114. He got married, had 2 or 3 children, got divorced, and as far as I know, is now living his life peacefully without any relationship and does everything for his children. He was not a bad person, just not the right person at the right time. Story 115. I became a Muslim and got married. We broke up because she did not want children. Story 116. I honestly do not know, but I hope she is doing fantastic because she was an absolutely lovely, beautiful person inside and out. Story 117. Bald and teaching high school accounting. He was intimidatingly cool at the time and a bit rude in retrospect. Story 118. Hopefully somewhere good. It didn't end well with us. Both of us handled it poorly, but I don't think she ever meant any harm, and we were so young I can hardly blame her for her actions. Story 119. Still in my city somewhere. I've seen her once in the last 21 years since I lost it to her. No reason, desire, or care to see her, honestly. It was awful. She starfished me. It was my first time, but not hers. She was cute and attractive enough, but I really didn't see her as much more than a friend. She had always hinted at liking me and wanted to have sex for months before I agreed. I was trying to save myself, but my best friend at the time pressured me, as we lived together after high school. I was 18, living in my own apartment with a roommate. After I lost it, she and I kind of stayed in contact, but she started seeing me as a wallet and nothing more. Felt like that, so I detached myself. Story 120. Got back in touch about a year ago. We are just friends now, but she sends me drunk texts every now and then. Her twin sister does the same, so I find it better not to indulge. Story 121. Dead. We were both 12. She died at 13. I still miss her. I am planning on naming my first daughter after her. Story 122. Not sure she is alive somewhere. She apologized for assaulting me at least. Story 123. Deleted their social media and probably changed their number. No idea and no interest. I am happy with who I have now. Story 124. Divorced from his second wife and living in a converted shipping container that does not look very converted from the photos he has posted. He dodged a bullet there. Story 125. Probably still with the man she married. Not sure, though. Story 126. No idea. I would rather forget that part of my life, frankly. Story 127. My first partner was about 20 years older than me. She passed away some years ago. It was strange going to her funeral, being the only person there who knew what happened between us. Story 128. He is walking our cat right now in the park where we are currently at. Story 129. She is a nurse, married with 3 children. She is very religious now and told her current husband she is a virgin. We were intimate the night before she got married for old time's sake. I tried to say no, but then she took her top off and I gave in. Story 130. Married to the girl he was unfaithful with. Last I heard, they have 2 children. Story 131. Oh my God. He is a terrible person. He was 33 and I was 19. I briefly reconnected with him when I moved back to the Midwest. I was very naive at 19. Story 132. She was an artist when we were friends and shared our first time together. 24 years later, she is a tattoo artist in the town where we grew up. Solid work from what I can tell. Story 133. She had a thyroid disease and developed a significant weight problem along with a difficult attitude. It negatively affected my life. Story 134. Based on what little I know of her last whereabouts, she should still be borderline anorexic, with at least 1 child around the age of 4. She might be married or still in relationships. I am not entirely sure since I do not follow her on any social media. Story 135. He got his fingers blown off with a firework. I saw him at a Halloween party after the incident, forgot, shook his hand, and asked why his hand was wet. Story 136. In a different town, married to a great woman. I wish him the best. Story 137. The sad answer. The man who took my virginity is living a happy life without any of the pain he inflicted on his 8-year-old victim. The other answer, also known as the first consensual experience, is being a bum in his hometown. Story 138. With someone else who I hope treats her with all the love and respect she deserves. Last I heard, she was having a child, but I haven't seen or heard anything from her in over a year and a half concerning that. I hope nothing bad happened with the pregnancy, but that is what I fear. We were together for a while around 7 years ago, and things ended amicably between us. No hard feelings either way. Things simply did not work out the way either of us would have liked. Maybe in the next life we will meet again, and the stars will align right for both of us. Story 139. He is married and living in Texas, far away from me, which is great. He was a person of low character anyway. Story 140. The last time I saw her was at my job, but she apparently quit a couple of months ago. I do not keep up with her, but I know she married another man and had 1 or 2 children. Story 141. Last I heard, they got a cheap 99-cent version of the person I used to be. I feel bad for my brother, but I hope they found happiness despite the flaws. Story 142. He seems to still be with the girl he impregnated immediately after we broke up, although he does not seem to be dating her seriously or married. Their child is adorable, and I think they just got her a puppy. I wish him nothing but happiness. Story 143. I do not know, probably deceased from drugs or stealing from someone else. Story 144. Married and later divorced a girl he cheated on me with. He also became a Nazi. Story 145. In the Bahamas with her 3rd or 4th husband, I went no contact for decades because she cheated. When I joined social media, she found me to apologize. She had been through difficulties with husband 1, the man she cheated with, husband 2, who divorced her after 6 months, and possibly husband 3. She wanted me to know that she had regrets, had been young and foolish, and that karma had caught up with her. Strangely, I have had similar conversations with 2 other exes. Story 146. Living in a basement suite after his fiancée kicked him out because he had a year-long affair with her sister. Story 147. Living with his wife while I live with mine. Still best friends. Maybe not what you were looking for. Story 148. He is a few towns over and lives with his wife now, which is funny because when we were together in 2018, they got together maybe 3 years later and married within a few months. Then he went into the army. Looking back, I think he broke up with me because he knew I would miss him when he went into the army, and he wanted us to get married at the time, but we only dated a few months. I think of that situation sometimes. It is baffling to me. Whatever though, not my problem. Story 149. Married with children, same as me. I hadn't heard from him in 25 years, and he contacted me to wish me a happy birthday on my 50th. It was nice to hear from him. Story 150. Still in the county where we went to school. I have not seen her for over 30 years. Story 151. My son's mother lives in a different state, which is a good place for her. Actually, being 10 states away would be better. Story 152. Not as romantic as most of these comments, but I am pretty sure she is back in China now. She came to the United States for college about 8 years ago, and that is where we met and got to know each other well. Too bad she turned out to be a stalker, but I was able to introduce her to someone in the end, and they were together for years and may still be. Story 153. Currently typing this out using her lotion-covered hands. Story 154. One of them is a nurse and the other is just now starting law school. High school was a wild time. Story 155. I was sexually abused by an older child when I was 7 or 8 years old. I hope he is dead and in hell. Hopefully, when he dies. Story 156. As far as I know, I am still living in our hometown and doing the same activities. Story 157. I am not completely sure, but I am about 80% sure he is living with the man who was his best friend when we were together and that they are roommates. Story 158. Do not know and do not care. He was an absolute jerk and slept with my friend behind my back. Story 159. He was killed a few years ago in a shooting. He was not the intended target. He was just going for a walk. The killer was never found. I had not seen or spoken to him in years, but I saw the story on the local news. Story 160. She spent some time in jail for embezzlement from a public entity. It was a one-night stand. Yes, I regret it. Story 161. I am pretty sure this is the real answer for 99.9% of people inside me. Story 162. Divorced her when I walked in on her with my best friend. That was 40 years ago. I can't say I miss either one. They both did me a favor. I never would have gotten where I did with her in tow. Plus, we had nothing, so she got half of nothing. Story 163. Beats me. I have not heard or seen him in many years. Story 164. He should be in prison, but instead he lives next to my mother and has children of his own. A.W. Story 165. Probably dead. If not, the dirtbag probably should be. Either way, if there is hell, that person has a reservation, no doubt. Story 166. Picking up anything he could get off Craigslist. He went downhill after me. The sheer stupidity it took to date him. Story 167. He works overnight as a laboratory technician in Long Beach, I think. I heard he is divorcing his wife. I have not talked to him since I was 18, but we share nieces because his brother married my husband's sister. I see his brother semi-regularly. Story 168. Sadly, she passed away last year after 25 years together. Story 169. She is in prison for attempting to suffocate her child. She is 18 years old, by the way. Story 170. Still a good friend, actually. More like family than a partner, which is why we did not work out romantically. Story 171. She is the mother of 3 children and still lives in my hometown. About 70% of my classmates in high school did not move anywhere. Story 172. Somewhere living in the same town. He got married and a few years later had a baby with her. I do not know all the details, but he filed for divorce 1 or 2 years after his daughter was born. Story 173. Living with his parents in a town in the same room where we had sex. Story 174. She messaged me on Facebook a few months ago asking for donations for a program at her child's school. I conducted a public records search and found that she and her husband have been in and out of jail for drug possession and burglary. They do not have custody of their children, and her Facebook is full of items for sale. She left me for him, and I am happy that they have maintained their relationship. Story 175. No clue, and I do not care. He has not been in my life since 1998, and that is the way I like it. Story 176. Well, I had my first time a couple of days ago. She is at home, but we are meeting again next week. Story 177. Pregnant and married to the man who was like a brother to her. Story 178. Somewhere in Florida, married with a child. I apparently was not marriage material for either of my 2 exes. Both relationships lasted more than 6 years and were live-in arrangements. Both exes married very quickly when they started their new relationships. Story 179. An engineer at a large technology firm, married with 2 children, doing very well. I wish him nothing but a long life and happiness. He was and continues to be a great person. We just did not work out in the long run. Story 180. She is an anthropology professor somewhere in Southern California. Still a nice lady. Just friends now, though. Story 181. Living in another state as a different gender. They are not one person anymore either. They say it is similar to Legion. Story 182. With his wife somewhere or his children. It is not really my business. Story 183. Some person knifed her to death at the bus station for $200. She was very willing. Story 184. I have no idea. We did it while I was home for a week from the military. When I came back for good 2 months later, she broke up with me and started telling people I forced her. I cut off all ties and moved on. I had to correct my reputation with a few people, but most knew it was false. Story 185. 2 daughters with 2 different women, living in the Mojave Desert still. A girl we went to high school with recently had a brief relationship with him and was posting things about, show me the darkest part of you and I'll love you anyway. Then the next week, she returned to her single life posts. Story 186. They had a gender reassignment and lied to the police about assaulting me, so I did not maintain communication. Story 187. In a local band, still playing music like he always loved, living with a woman, and they both make it sound like a miserable relationship, as my friends tell me even though I do not want to know. They must complain to others about each other all the time. She checks his phone, moves out, and then back in. I wish him happiness and more than what he has. Story 188. I do not know. Snapchat keeps telling me she posted because her number is in my phone. Story 189. I have no idea. I am sure she is on her second or third marriage. She was cheating on her first husband with me. I did not know she was married. She probably has a child from each marriage, but not with me. Story 190. I was 15, and he was 16. I left Pennsylvania, my home, in 1984 and moved to Florida. I assume he is still in Pennsylvania. I wish him nothing but happiness. Story 191. She lives about 200 miles south of me. She has reconciled with her family and is living her best life, or so I have been told. I have not talked to her in about 40 years. I hope she is happy. She deserves it. Story 192. She just ran into Sephora with our daughter while my son and I sat in the car playing games on our phones. Story 193. Last time I checked, she had been through multiple marriages and was living alone. Story 194. Married. The last time we slept together was in 2009, I think. After that, we regularly hung out until 2014 when I received a text after we had hung out with a mutual friend. The text stated, I can't hang out with you anymore, and I can't explain why, and I was blocked on everything. Last year, I came across her Facebook account, and people were congratulating her on getting married. Since it was public, I replied with, congratulations on your marriage, hope you're doing well. And, as you guessed, I was blocked immediately. Story 195. She passed away last week. We married when we were 20. She decided after a couple of years that she wanted to sow her oats and left me. That was 50 years ago. Her closest friend and I have stayed in touch, which is how I found out. She also shared that my ex had a very tough life. Her father sexually abused her, which I didn't know until recently. She experienced some very bad relationships and substance abuse. She said my ex always regretted leaving me. She had 3 kids with 3 different men but always kept my last name. I haven't had feelings for her in probably 45 years, but I am still very sad about her passing. Story 196. Absolutely no idea. I last saw her in 1989. It is like she disappeared off the planet. I have tried searching for her with no results. Story 197. Her name was Donna. In Costa Rica, I broke into a hotel room and we made love on the couch. Then the security guard escorted us out, as he had found us at the end of a shotgun. Fun times. Story 198. I do not know. The last I heard, she was a registered nurse at a hospital a couple of 100 miles away. We reconnected briefly on Facebook but never really chatted. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.